So lately there's been a lot of discussion, talk, and a fair amount of argument about one specific cartridge, and this is the 300 AAC Blackout. I thought I'd make a little 4-part video series to discuss the round, and in this part we'll talk about just kind of the general overview, positives and negatives of the round, and then go into more specifics in subsequent videos. So what is the 300 Blackout? It's a 30 caliber round, 7.62 by 35, that Advanced Armament Corporation standardized in 2011. However, it's not really that new. It's been around sort of in the form of Wildcat cartridges, most notably the 300 Whisper, for quite some time. It's based around 223 or 556 brass that is then cut down and re-necked to accommodate a 30 caliber projectile. It's a mid-range cartridge. Generally, you're going to want to be within 400 yards. I think it really shines about 50 to 200 yards, but of course you can reach out to 400, and people are doing it beyond that. Because of the drop, it's really not suited for long-range applications. For something very long range in 30 caliber, you might want to look at, say, a full-on 308. This does lend very well to rifles and pistols with reflex sights, red dots, such as the Meprolite M21 here. It was also designed around a 9-inch barrel as opposed to the 5.56 being designed around a 20-inch barrel. And the AK, of course, similar length. So you have essentially in the supersonic rounds right here, not exactly, but fairly comparable ballistics to the 7.62 by 39. However, you're going from, a 16 or longer barrel and your AK for those ballistics compared to about 8 or 9-inch barrel in 300 Blackout. So there's a huge difference in size there. It's basically, half an AK for similar ballistics. Not exact, that really depends on how the load is tuned, but we'll get into that later. It's also designed and works phenomenally well in the heavier bullets for subsonic applications. If you're suppressing it, you can essentially run a 7.5-inch to 9-inch barrel with a full-length 30 caliber suppressor like the Saker 7.62 here and still have an overall length on your weapon shorter than an AK or full-size AR-15, which is very appealing if you do want to run it suppressed. Also, if you take a look at a very short-barreled 300 Blackout AR with a full-length 30 cal cannon, it's not going to be any bigger than an MP5SD, which, of course, you're looking at 9mm ballistics compared to 30 caliber ballistics, and you're going to have a lot more energy on impact using subsonic 300 Blackout ammo than you would in 9mm ammo. So, some of the positives, we've kind of already discussed them. You're looking at a mid-range SBR pistol application that ideally is suppressed. That's a big deal. If you want to have a home defense rifle or pistol or something you keep in a car or you hunt with that you can't have banging around all over the place and linked as a concern, 300 Blackout is superb compared to 5.56 for short barrel applications. 5.56, of course, really shines due to a very high velocity small projectile. So when you shorten the barrel that much, it really cripples the round. And if you go suppressed, a subsonic 5.56 is essentially a 22 long rifle that you pay too much for. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but you get the idea. It's not going to shine. It's not going to perform how the 5.56 was designed to and be as quiet as you could get out of 300 Blackout. A 220 grain bullet traveling at 1,000 feet per second is going to do a heck of a lot more damage to a target than a 55 or 62 grain traveling, again, at about 1,000 feet per second. So suppression is a huge deal. You can basically go in a very small package and have either similar ballistics to 7.62 by 39, your normal AK round, or you can go suppressed and have a subsonic round that performs better than most pistol caliber subsonic rounds. So it's very versatile in that aspect. It's a huge plus there. Ballistics, again, are a very good thing for this round. It's hard to get good ballistics out of such a short barrel and suppressed platform. So that really, really shines. There's a lot of arguments about this, but again, when you're going anywhere from 110 to a 220 grain projectile, you're going to have differences in ballistics. So a lot of those arguments you really have to take with a grain of salt. But the last and big positive for a lot of people is, what does it take to make a 300 Blackout, say, AR-15? Well, all it is a barrel swap. You'll use the exact same magazines that you have. This is a PMag 5.56 by 45. It will hold 30 rounds of 300 Blackout, so you're not getting any round loss, and generally they function just fine. Later on, I'll kind of discuss more into that in a hardware video, but for the most part, your mags will work great. You'll have the same bolt carrier group, same bolt, same upper, lower, triggers, everything. It's just a barrel change. That's not to say it's completely easy, because you're going with, 110 grain difference in commercial ammo. There is some things you may need to tune, and that gets into one of the negatives. Tuning a 300 Blackout is kind of a pain. And this is due, again, because you've got such a wide variety of bullet weights. So most of your short barrel, say 7.5 to 9 inch pistol length gas systems, will run supersonic fine. There will be no problems. However, they may have failure to feeds and failure to lock backs on an empty mag using subsonic ammo. This is almost always, again, remedied by using a suppressor. The additional back pressure solves this issue. I will also say that if you're running subsonic ammo, it really needs to be through a suppressor. If you're not suppressing it, you're really trading a ton of performance for very little noise reduction, although you do get a little recoil reduction as well. Another negative is long-range application. It's really not designed to reach out that far. For what it is, SBR pistol suppressed inside 300 or 400 yards with a reflex sight, Aimpoint, EOTech, Meprolite M21, whatever, that really works well. But if you want to reach out further, it's probably not the cartridge you should look at as a long range experience. Another negative is it's expensive. So there are companies like Fog Firearms putting out subsonic ammo at a very reasonable price, under $1 a round. However, most of your commercially available ammo, such as your 220 grains, are going to be about $1 a round. And that's just kind of for plinking ammo. If you want to get really into hunting rounds, self-defense rounds, precision rounds, you might look at $2 a round or even up to $3 a round for some of the high-end stuff. It's also not very available. You can find it, you can order it, but it's not easy and it's not cheap. You certainly can't go to Walmart and just grab a bunch like you would 5.56 or 7.62 by 39. Another big negative is, like I said, it really shines well out of short barrel applications. So of course there's AR pistols, and that's one thing. They're awesome. You might love them, hate them, whatever, think they're horrible. But if you want a full-on SBR, you do have to pay the $200 tax stamp and the wait period and go through that. So, when you're looking at, you're not going to get a long-range cartridge. You're going to have an expensive cartridge that might not be very available unless you reload, which for 300 Blackout, I highly suggest. If you want an SBR, you're going to have to tax stamp it. It functions well out of a suppressor, which is another expensive item, and tax stamp, and tuning is a pain. So, kind of the final thoughts. It's a very versatile round for mid-range applications. You can get great plinking rounds, hunting rounds in your supersonic. You can get very, very quiet close-range rounds for defensive applications or military or law enforcement. But it does come at the expense of needing essentially an SBR tax stamp. There's $200. A suppressor, $200 plus the cost of the can. And now you've got $400 in tax stamps, the rifle itself, and probably equally that expensive of a can if you want a good 30 cal can in a platform that you're going to have to spend time tuning. So it does come with a drawback to get it to perform really well. It's an ideal cartridge for someone that's not afraid of going with NFA items and going through the paperwork and who reloads. However, if you're just getting into it and you say you want to just convert over your 16-inch AR barrel to 300 Blackout, I don't think it's an ideal choice. Again, it really shines with mid-range, quick acquisition, suppressed, short barrel applications. That's really what the 300 Blackout was designed for. And if you understand those limitations and that's what you are looking for out of it, it is absolutely phenomenal and I highly recommend it. If that's not your cup of tea, there are plenty of other cartridge choices available that might suit your needs better.